March. Right. Peace.
Welcome to today's President's Day ceremony. Today, we honor all presidents with special attention to Presidents Washington, Lincoln, and Kennedy. In 1789, George Washington was inaugurated as our first president. The U.S. flag at the time had 13 stars and 13 stripes representing each of the 13 original states. Washington set many customs and traditions followed by the following 44 presidents. When he left office after 2 terms were complete, he set a standard for future presidents to follow. In his farewell address, he stated his hopes for the new nation. Speaker number 1. Who dat?
Friends and fellow citizens, the period for a new election of a citizen to administer the executive government of the United States being not far distant, and the time actually arrived when your thoughts must be employed in designating the person who is to be clothed with that important trust, it appears to me proper that I should now apprise you of the resolution I have formed to decline being considered. In looking forward to the moment intended to terminate the career of my political life, my feelings do not permit me to suspend the deep acknowledgement of that debt of gratitude which I owe to my beloved country for the many honors it has conferred upon me, still more for the steadfast confidence with which it has supported me and for the opportunities I have thence enjoyed, interwoven as is the love of liberty with every ligament of our hearts. The name of American must always exalt the just pride of patriotism more than any appellation. You have in a common cause fought and triumphed together. The independence and liberty you possess are the work of joint efforts, of common dangers, sufferings, and successes. Though in reviewing the incidents of my administration I am unconscious of intentional error, I am nevertheless too sensible of my defects not to think it probable that I may have committed many errors. Whatever they may be, I fervently beseech the Almighty to avert the evils to which they may tend. I shall also carry with me the hope that my country will never cease to view them with indulgence, and that after 45 years of my life, dedicated to its service with an upright zeal, the faults of incompetent abilities will be consigned to oblivion, as myself soon must be. I anticipate with pleasing expectation that retreat in which I promise myself to realize without alloy the sweet enjoyment of partaking in the midst of my fellow citizens the benign influence of good laws under free government, the ever favorite object of my heart, and the happy reward, as I trust, of our mutual cares, labors, and dangers.
That's me. Oh, shoot. Is it time? Do I do it yet? No? I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for them to... Oh, wait. Okay. There we go. I know what to do now. Jesus Christ.
over here.
Right now? Okay. 65 years later. 65 years later, the nation was enduring a brutal civil war. The American flag was 36 stars, one for each state, including the 11 states rebelling against the Union. In November of 1863, 4 months after the bloodiest battle of the war, President Lincoln traveled to Gettysburg to dedicate a new national cemetery for our fallen heroes. His Gettysburg Address honored all the fallen. As you be.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that this nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hollow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Thank you kindly. Nearly 100 years later, the U.S. flag had achieved its current form. Alaska and Hawaii became the 49th and 50th states, bringing the number of stars to 50. The following year, John F. Kennedy promoted the highest ideals and expectations for his fellow citizens in his inaugural address.
My fellow citizens, we observe today not a victory party, but a celebration of freedom, symbolizing an end as well as a beginning, signifying renewal as well as change. For I have sworn before you and Almighty God the same solemn oath our forebears prescribed nearly a century and 3/4 ago. We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place, to friend and foe alike, that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans, born into the century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed, and to which we are committed today at home and around the world. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.